Welcome, listeners. Welcome to Kyle and Cody's Cult Cinema Cast, Saskatchewan's favorite cinema podcast. I'm Kyle.
I'm Cody. You
Say it with more meaning.
hold us in way too high of regard.
Oh, who's going to check?
What I'm saying is there's probably another Saskatchewan-based film. There's got to be at least one.
I mean, they can come at me, bro. But yeah, now we're reviewing what is perhaps one of the only full Saskatchewan produced and filmed movie I've ever heard of, for sure. Wolf Cop, Saskatchewan's own Wolf Cop, which is a 2014 horror comedy, and it is something special. Yeah, it's got like that. It's got a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Those are actually pretty low. I think this is worth a little bit more than that.
I don't know. I guess it's claimed as a comedy, and I didn't find a whole lot of comedic aspects to it.
There's some good one-liners, but no, I think it's pretty well put together, actually. It's got some decent enough effects. It's I think the performances are more or less okay. They're not too they don't push the edge of how campy they are.
Mm-hmm.
They play it just straight enough to make it not seem really bad. And the actors aren't complete shit, which is always good. That's always a danger with these smaller projects, is they're not the actors won't be as of a quality, which is good to say, because I actually have my copy is actually signed by Leo Fafard, Wolf Cop himself, and also I believe the director Lowell Dean, though I can't read the handwriting.
So that's worth $10.
I paid $15 for the DVD. Are you saying it depreciated in value?
Probably.
God. Jeez, I think that's...
Here's the thing. I think this had enough recognition, along with the Velocipaster, that it has such a premise that people would pay money to go in and see it.
For the record, I think this is better than Velocipaster.
Once the novelty of what they're doing here wears off, as we've seen with this, we couldn't find the production value of it.
Budget's estimated as $1 million, I saw somewhere. Which, I see the money on screen. You get a decent... it's better than Velocipaster in that the effects are actually decent. Like, they clearly have enough money to do stuff. Like, there's burning buildings and explosions and gunshots. Yeah, it's a pretty decent R-rated movie. They get to do a full... Like, not all the effects aren't all photorealistic or anything, but like a lot of them are at least good. It's at least like a very refined a slightly more refined version of something you'd find in the 80s, which doesn't always translate to HD, but still looks good.
Yeah. Zero computer generated effects.
Yeah. No, that's... Yeah, it's all pretty real fire and real shots and proper fake guns. They did get a sequel to this. It's not quite as good, but we'll get to that eventually. I got it on probably season 3. I don't think we're gonna go to that immediately. I think there's maybe supposed to be a third one coming out eventually. I don't know when. I mean, I think we're due for it. I think these come out every 3 years so far. So yeah, it's pretty decent. It's like maybe a bit out of its time. I think this would have probably killed in the 80s.
Oh yeah,
like
definitely.
If you put this like if you release this in the 80s alongside like RoboCop or whatever, I think it would have at least done well.
Well, it's just the thing, you kind of have that combination of like Teen Wolf meets the Punisher, and that's appealing. I'll give it that much.
Yeah. It's definitely got a very decent appeal. It's got enough resources to play itself properly, which is like, I mean, we looked at the Velocipaster in our first episode, and like that was something that clearly didn't have the budget to put itself to its perhaps logical conclusion. This has all the money it needs. Could they have maybe done more? Maybe, but it's certainly fine.
But I'm gonna say that this took itself a lot more serious than the Velocipaster did.
Oh yeah. Mostly because this has decent actors in it, like actors doing proper acting instead of. I'm not saying the actors in Velocipaster are bad. I think they're doing a purposeful, creative choice in that movie, whereas these guys are pretty much playing it straight. It doesn't. Yeah, they're playing it straight as far as like, oh, I am saying this sentence out loud in a normal in a normal real tone. There's a larger tone which doesn't, which is a lot less serious, but I wouldn't necessarily go as far to call it a parody. It's got a very sincere homage to like violent 80s vigilante movies.
Which, speaking of that, we've covered this Wolf Cop this season. We've covered the Toxic Avenger. We've covered the Velocipaster. Almost to the point that like this is almost becoming its own sub theme where we've done,
Yeah,
I supernatural vigilantism.
Yeah, we had this. We had Bad Dads. That's another sub theme for the season. It's very interesting getting lit late in the season. We're beginning to like get a grasp of what our kind of mythology. This is obviously exaggerating, but our mythology is building up to, and like getting our ideas of how things worked. Like we're getting running jokes slowly, which is very nice and rewarding in its own way. And I love that I love that fucking Twitter thing I saw the other day about, oh, Amazon Music is gonna start allowing podcasts, but you can't criticize just Bezos. And I'm like, if you saw my Twitter post, it was basically, okay, have a nice day, Jeff Bezos.
That was like, I don't know, 8 episodes too late before we really started.
Oh yeah,
dropping jokes about Amazon and Amazon Prime. So, I mean, that ship has sailed.
Are trudging it. We're like trudging at the edge of bread tube a little bit. Not a ton of, like, we're not that high scripted quality, but we're got a little bit of it. We got our lefty politics in here occasionally. I think on to the movie now. Yeah, let's go on to the movie. Yeah, we get our opening credits over some some flashing images of satanic imagery and different newspaper articles. We see some video footage of three cloaked, we see some scenes of 3 cloaked figures walking through the woods with old-timey guns, which gives us a glimpse of who that stuff's been going on for a long time. Very nice. One thing I like about this movie that I picked up a lot more on the rewatch, packs a lot of information into it. Like you learn, like you get hints throughout it, like actual proper hints. And are they subtle? Are they entirely subtle? Probably not, especially on the rewatch for me. But they are there, and it's communicating information to you a lot, which is very good to see. It's a good quality to have in a movie. We next see cut to our first image of our title character, Lou Garou, Officer Lou Garou, which is a pun on the term werewolf in French, which I suppose he could free French Canadian. Yeah, the setting of this is kind of weird. It's got a bunch of they have a sheriff's office, which is not something we usually have in Canada as much. Certainly not in Saskatchewan.
No, but it was shot in Saskatchewan.
Oh yeah, lots of Saskatchewan product placement too.
I don't know if we mentioned that.
We did. Okay. Yeah, it got brought up. Like, you do see stuff. I recognize a few of the location shots actually when they're pouring over the city. I think I saw some clips a Regina in there that I maybe recognized. It's there too quick, and I'm not like looking at it from that exact angle, but I am picking up on it. So it's not fully Canadian, like the imagery is like the cultural idea isn't fully Canadian like it maybe should be, and there's lots of stuff in this movie that happens that you absolutely cannot do in Canada. Certainly not in Saskatchewan. Like you could not have they have this yearly festival called the Drink and Shoot. That would be illegal as fuck.
Yeah, our gun laws are a lot different than the States.
Gun laws, our liquor laws. We can't even have strip clubs here. Yeah, no, that's how strict everything is here. They legalized it briefly and then chickened out like a couple years ago. But no, there's this breaks tons of Saskatchewan laws, which kind of unhinges it in reality a bit. But I don't think even depending on the state, I don't know all this.
Like, yeah, but they showed a nice. Sorry, I was gonna say, but they showed a very nice shot of the CPR rail.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and yeah, this does take place in Canada clearly because they showed Canadian Pacific Railway car, which is what CP stands for the American listeners, that's our second biggest market. So there we go. We gotta talk down to you, gotta bring you up on the lingo. Being such the savage, primitive civilization they are, they need to be brought up to speed.
I mean, if we weren't an audio podcast, we'd be like bringing out a map for you guys, but you know.
Yeah, we'll set this up in front of a Canadian flag background and bring out some like beavers and polar bears, I guess. Anyway, so we're introduced to our main character sitting in his shitty house next to a topless woman who we do not see again. They could easily have said this was the one bartender lady, but it's brought up that it's clearly not her. So I don't know why this woman's here per se. Not trying to disparage her, but I just don't know what her just seems like she's there so that the audience can see some exposed boobs, which is
get that attention early.
Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, they're getting out of there. We see a bunch of empty Moose Knuckle bottles, which Moose Knuckle was a beer. It's just they took off the Moose Knuckle branding now. You can still get it though. It's made by District Brewing. It's called their German Pilsner. It's quite good. I prefer their Marzen Lager myself, which is quite good. Please sponsor us, District Brewery. I will gladly shill your very good beer, which is very good. They have a very nice Bavarian dark lager, made in Saskatchewan, in Regina.
Moose Knuckle's a play on camel toe, correct?
I have no idea. People chuckle when I say it.
Sure it is.
No one's explained to me if that's the thing for sure.
I'm almost positive.
But I refuse to ask because they refuse to tell me. Oh, you're probably right. That's where my mind goes, but I haven't heard that confirmed from an authoritative source. It's good beer though. Anyway, he's walking out of his house to some sheepdogs. They're playing Gold on the Ceiling. You get a couple of good Canadian songs. I think, hold on. Yeah, that's also Canadian. The first of two very popular Canadian songs being played. The music in this is actually pretty good. He gets into his car, vomits because he's hungover as fuck. He's driving home. We get the name of the town, which is Woodhaven. We get our first exposition about the upcoming Drink and Shoot, which is an event where they hunt and drink, which illegal as all fuck.
Not only illegal, but like that's just like health code.
Dangerous.
Yeah,
health code, dangerous, very dangerous. People are gonna get hurt. How have people not gotten hurt? How has this not been shut down years ago? Like, we see a couple cell phone. Granted, I think we only see flip phones in this, so I think it's set a little bit in the past, maybe. But still, this isn't set in such an archaic time that this is possible. That this wouldn't have been shut down. Although, mind you, maybe... Anyway, We get a bit more exposition. There's an epidemic of missing cats and dogs, which is a nice little hint.
Was that explained though?
We're getting the impression. Not really,
Sorry.
actually. No, go ahead. Yeah, no,
Yeah, I didn't
not
think
really.
so.
Yeah, I think the bad guys are maybe killing them, but why would they be killing them? Yeah, this is actually weird in retrospect.
Has nothing to do with werewolves because he's not a werewolf yet.
Yeah, no, there's no werewolf yet. Because yeah, there's only one around, so it'd be the bad guys killing it. But it's not established that the bad guys kill animals.
Yeah, I was about to speak about that, but we're not quite there yet, so.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we're getting the impression this is a real shit town. The police station has graffiti on it. I think maybe different graffiti each time, actually. I saw like a bunch of stuff like pigs written on it.
But I mean, it's one of 3 cops.
Oh, yeah, there's only 3 cops. There's 3 cops and a coroner, they call, but I don't think he works for the police station. I think he's just with the hospital. So, yeah, we see him drive past some guys beating up another guy. He just gives them like a look and just like, go home, and then keeps going. He drives into the sheriff's parking spot crookedly and hits the sign, damaging that. And then he walks in, and his boss gives him shit about being late, about a point that and we get some information that these guys called the Piggies have been robbing places, and they're just criminals in pig masks who are doing armed robbery. Lou is given a complaint by Willie Higgins, who is a friend of his, I guess. He's leveraging a disturbance complaint, and Lou goes to check it out. He makes his way to Willie's hunting shop, and Willie figures that there's a bunch of teenagers doing satanic shit in the woods, and he wants to citizens arrest them and do vigilante justice, but Lou talks him down in favor of investigating it himself. And by investigating it himself, he means go to the tavern, which is so he's a drunk cop.
I just figured out where I've seen the guy who plays Willie Higgins in this movie.
Oh?
Have you ever watched Goon?
Oh, Goon. Is he in that?
Yeah, he's the goalie.
Oh.
What?
I haven't seen those. I've been meaning to. I haven't gotten around to it. Do you want to? You can throw that on season 2. You can throw that on season 2. It's Goon 1 on season 2 if you want. We haven't gotten around. I haven't fully finished the list yet.
Canadian.
Yeah. You can throw that on the list. I'll throw it on the rotation. I gotta nail that down in the next week here, probably. Yeah, we can do that. Because I've been meaning to get around to those. Yeah, that's neat. Those are supposed to be good. Lou makes a comment about the drink and shoot being just a bunch of drunks with guns, to which the bartender, Jessica, just says like, haha, funny, points out that he's a pot calling the kettle black, and he's just like, haha, very funny, because he is a drunk with a gun. And he says, I'll have you know I haven't fired mine in years. We get an introduction to the gang in the town, which is like a sort of biker gang. They make meth. So yeah, they're just
is it
some
meth?
sort of rural. Yeah, it's pointed out that they have a meth lab later in the movie. They show the gang leader smoking this red frosting sugar later in the movie, which is supposed to be cocaine, but it's clearly red frosting sugar, but which you could guess is cocaine. But
well, you snort meth too.
Do you? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. But yeah,
I wouldn't know either. I just know that's the thing.
I saw it on Breaking Bad.
Yes,
except the meth in that was blue. I think this came out after Breaking Bad, so that's maybe a parody on that. Anyway, moving on.
I think you're way looking into this too much.
Yeah. So yeah, they walk in and we get our little brief introduction to them. Next, we get another introduction to a character, Terry Wallace, who is campaigning to unseat the incumbent mayor in the upcoming civic election. And he makes a big point about this being a town full of corruption and that they don't actually do anything, and kind of like points at sneers at Lou, saying incompetent policing and whatnot.
I mean, he's one of 3 police officers.
Yeah, not like he could probably do a lot. And
See, this is where this kind of draws a line for me because I don't fully understand. It's got this big time town vibe, but everybody knows each other like it's a small town.
yeah, it's a little weird. Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. They got some small town stuff mixed with some big town stuff. You get a lot of feelings of towns that aren't big enough to have like this is a very small towny seeming bar, but this town is actually fairly big. It seems like something on the scale of probably at least Estevan, if not, or Weyburn, but
All the people that don't know where we're talking about.
10,000 person town
Yes.
is what we're scaling this to.
But what I'm saying is we have more than 3 cops, I hope.
It's a little deceptive because we also have the RCMP station.
Oh.
Like we have our city police, and also we have the Mountie station in the town. So, so after this, they cut to Lou searching the backwoods, trying to scare off the teenagers he figures are partying in the backwoods. He's telling them to go to fuck home so he doesn't have to do the paperwork because he's a lazy cop. But honestly, that's probably a not entirely unreasonable reaction to some kids doing some stupid shit in the backyards and in the woods. He hears a scream and tracks it, and he finds Terry being hung upside down from a tree. And then 2 hooded figures go and knock him out and restrain him, and then do some sort of ritual to him. During which he falls unconscious. And he doesn't seem to totally retain the memory of this, because a little later they find Terry dead in the woods, and he doesn't bring up what happened. So I don't know that he fully remembers what happened. But he wakes up. He tries shaving. He can't manage to shave. Yeah, his beard kind of just grows instantly back. We've got some cameras work showing that he's got heightened senses. And he also finds a big fucking star carved into his chest, which should tip him off that about what's happening, but he doesn't bring it up at all for some reason, which is the biggest plot hole in the movie, because he doesn't speak up.
Yes, but he also realized that he had heightened senses and his beard can't grow. And then he noticed a giant fucking pentagram carved into his stomach.
Yeah. So, he should probably be investigating this further.
My only counter argument to this is that because he was a werewolf, he couldn't feel it.
Yeah. Maybe, I guess the explanation is that he remembers less than we think. Because, yeah, apparently this was his first transformation into a werewolf, and yeah, we don't learn too much about it just yet. He gets called out to go check on this crime scene. They found Terry dead in the woods. His boss, the chief, chews him out for being a bit late. He also interacts a bit with Tina Walsh, who is the other cop who we'd met earlier. They find Terry Walsh dead with a needle fuck.
They're not the same
Tina
person.
Walsh. No. What's Tina's last name? Is it Walsh, right?
I'm actually not too sure about this.
Yeah, I'm getting the names mixed up here. Because for some fucking reason, the cast list never seems to fucking say the last names of the female characters, even though Tina's last name is definitely given. Okay, yeah, see, here it is again. Sergeant Tina, but she clearly had a last name. They showed her dad's last name, and she's not married. I think it's Walsh. Tina Walsh. Fucking hell, Wikipedia. Terry Wallace is found dead in the woods with drugs in his arms, and also a big bite mark across his neck, which the coroner who arrives, who's very nonchalant about all this, he sets his donut on the dead guy's knee, for fuck's sakes,
Mm-hmm.
and points out that, like, okay, he probably just OD'd and then an animal got at him, which Tina doesn't entirely buy, because this is very similar to what happened to similar to what happened 32 years ago on the anniversary, which is coming up close as the 32nd anniversary of the death of both of their fathers. Tina's dad was a bar owner in the area, and Lou Garou's dad was a cop, and they both died 32 years ago. And
Yes.
mysterious. And she brings up difference about this.
So I've got a lot of questions.
One more thing. Lou also just points out that he's a little bit weirded out by this, because Wallace didn't seem like he didn't peg Wallace as a druggie or a drug user. Sorry, I should.
What I was gonna say is the cult the cult was going to kill him. Then the werewolf came along. What I'm saying is, did they have the drugs preemptively and were like, yeah, just stick it in his arm, pretend he OD'd or whatever? Like, what was the why not just make it look like an animal attack?
Well, it doesn't. I suppose, yeah. They could have just framed it fully as an animal attack. I can think of where they would have gotten the drugs, because one of the bad guys does have access to drugs and would probably have easy access to them. But yeah, they could have just framed this as an animal attack pretty easily.
Right?
It would have been. I guess it's a way to explain why he was in the woods. Like, he went out into the woods to use his drugs where no one could see him.
Sure. I mean, bit of a reach.
Yeah,
But...
I guess. Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, get away from the cameras, I guess, or get just, I don't know. Sometimes you gotta go out in the woods to go do the drugs and feel yourself. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, the chief points out that they have to keep this quiet, which is followed immediately by the mayor making a comment on the affair on television, which is a bit weird. Weird they're not just doing it on the radio, I guess. The mayor has to says that because of this death and the ongoing investigation about it, they're going to have to cancel the drink and shoot, which coincidentally, the last time the drink and shoot was canceled was when Lou and Tina's fathers were killed. So, yeah. Meanwhile, next scene we get is Lou does initially brush the idea off, but later in the bar he is kind of has a notebook in front of him. He's doing math, and he's doing some actual police work, which the bartender Jessica, who's the love interest of the movie, she kind of like scoffs at while she is handing him drinks. He points out that she's trying to get him drunk so that they can, and they're flirting a bit, so that they can have relations and wherever. She's shutting down the bar early so that they can go do naughty things in the back room. I don't know. You'd have to ask an adult. I don't know.
I was just gonna say, yeah, they're definitely gonna bounce. I am an adult.
So yeah, she goes to throw out some trash from a loading dock and does a sexy move toward a truck with some gang members in it. This is one of the things that's perhaps the clumsiest bit of foreshadowing in the movie, but it is weirdly well done, which is, I think, is a bit conflicting here, because she's clearly knows what's going on with these gang members, and she's letting them in. leaving a door unlocked so they can go in. Meanwhile, Lou goes into the bathroom. Goes into the bathroom in the downstairs of the bar to go use the bathroom. He starts peeing blood, and then his transformation starts into the werewolf, penis first, which we see. So I don't know. I don't know whose this is for. It's a very interesting choice, I guess.
Yeah, it's just about to comment on later on in the movie. There's one nudity scene. Two if you're counting this. I don't really exactly count this.
I mean, it's clearly a prosthetic of some sort.
What I was gonna say, I was like, well, they showed a penis earlier. Like this chick's definitely keeping her clothes on for a really long time, and then I was like, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds to a later, or seconds to a minute later, bam, nudity.
But yeah, he starts his transformation. It's actually there's two of these, and this is the better done one. It's very gory, like he's totally ripping through the skin, which there's a grand tradition of werewolf transformations. And this is a reasonable contender. Maybe a bit out of date for the times, but valid enough. Like you can't really fault something for doing something as well as what was going on in the 80s. Maybe a little better than that, but the second one isn't quite as good. You can really tell that the rubber is breaking apart, the rubber mold. So the guys, the gangsters, do a fake break and entering to go. We learn later they're doing this to capture Lou, but since Lou is post transformation, they have to deal with the werewolf cop and are completely slaughtered. So yeah. And meanwhile, we get a scene of Jessica looking around the corner at the very loud noises, very sexily, like she's like moving around on the corner to show off curves. So after this bit of foreshadowing, she is cuffed. We find that Lou is cuffed to a bed with furry pink handcuffs and there's also a dog on the bed, which isn't a big deal. The dog kind of disappears later. We find out he is in Willie's house. We find out that Willie had tranked him after looking around the woods for presumably them kids that were making racket out behind a shop. And he offers to make Lou breakfast because apparently he's a werewolf, and Willie's very excited about this because he seems like the type. He's a very conspiracy theorist type. At some point, as Willie's making his scrambled eggs, he puts wolfsbane in Lou's eggs, which Lou coughs up. This happens for no reason. It was just something that Willie just felt he needed to do to prove that Lou's a werewolf, because he just has wolfsbane lying around for some reason. Willie points out that he's going to make out some new eggs, and also they're going to have to lock Lou up for a couple days while he's doing his werewolf stuffs, because they're currently within a full moon phase. He offers to make Lou some more eggs, but Tina has showed up at Willie's place to pick him up to take him to work. And just as he gets to work very late, the chief points out that his dad would have been ashamed of him. He is brought to the bar where the remains of his big werewolf fight happened. I think he knows what happened, but Jessica, who's giving a witness statement that he takes, just points out that, like, hey, you saved me. You didn't do a bad thing. So that's a thing. They go into the bathroom to find all the remains. Tina plays with Lou's severed face from his werewolf transformation, because of course. Why would you play with that? You're a police officer. You're the most professional. You're probably one of the. Yeah, you're one of the professional cops. Why are you making a jokes with that? I don't think you're wearing gloves either, so that's another breach of protocol. And you're one of the good cops.
We make the assumption that she's one of, yeah. I mean, the bar's pretty low.
Yeah, although the bar is him, the chief, and her, so it's not lots. We cut to a scene with the gangster, who is the gang leader, who is giving his one employee his one gangster shit because they showed up late to pick up Lou Garou. Yeah, he had apparently called for Lou to get kidnapped, which pretty much reveals the game that he's one of the bad guys, and he's trying to pick up Lou for some reason. The gangster insists that he saw a werewolf, and he's like, "Psh," and the gang leader's just like, yeah, sure, that's what you saw, and then stabs one of his eyes out in like a big "you failed me" scene. Yeah, this brings up some interesting thing because this points out that like, yeah, he's clearly working on this werewolf thing, but he doesn't want people to know about the werewolf thing. Lou goes to the library to go do some researching. He does some researching on the on werewolfism and different supernatural creatures, and picking up on the pattern, which is on a lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. Which one's which? The one that's every 32 years or whatever. But anyway, there's an eclipse every 32 years. And during the last one, Tom Walsh, Tina's father, and his father, and Lou's father, Ed Garou, were killed on the last solar eclipse. So they bring up. Lou has a conversation with Willie about a very accurate reconstruction of a ritual about werewolfing. They point out that the werewolf is usually a village idiot or something, which,
Mhm.
haha. And he's like, well, who's doing this? And he points out, changelings, which are changelings, and they're doing it so they can, and they're making werewolves so they can harvest the werewolves' blood on the solar eclipse to give them decades of extra life.
I don't know how accurate this is to actual werewolf mythology.
Whatever. It's all made up anyway. Because I mean, this is actually very interesting. Because like, I mean, we know that there's no pattern of werewolves. Like, he's clearly not looking up a real life werewolf book, because you'd find like 50 different accounts. But I guess since werewolves are real in this universe, you can just find the recipe to make werewolves on any library, I guess. During the night, Lou and Willie set up a meeting at the police station. They are going to lock Lou up in the police station's prison cell, or little holding cell, I should say, and and Willie is going to observe his transformation. As he gets into his underwear and gets into the cell, Tina walks in and gives him and has a conversation with him. So that's a bit of an unfortunate thing, I guess. They get the implications of this little videotaped adventure that they are clearly in the process of. Jess, Tina, 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 Tina. I need to stop doing that. Tina tells Lou that she's doesn't believe for a minute that's an animal attack, and that she wants to investigate it more. But Lou kind of brushes her off. After she leaves, Willie offers Lou some horse tranquilizer if he wants to just be try to be out for the night. He refuses, and he starts his transformation a little bit later and rips out of his skin. This is the worst of the two transformation sequences because you can really tell the rubber's being used here. After they're sitting in there after he's sitting in the cell for a while, and they've played goldfish in a bunch, and we have a little bit of Lou asking for beer, Wolf Lou asking for beer and donuts, because there's a store in town called Liquor Donuts, which you I don't think you could have had that in Saskatchewan in 2014. Nowadays, it's a little different, but 2014, I don't think that was allowed. Yeah, they started loosening things up a little bit after that, but not too much longer after that. So, after a while, the phone rings at the police station, and Lou walks out of his cell and takes the police complaint through growling and puts on his uniform and walks out of the place to Willie's protest to go deal with an armed robbery. The piggies are robbing the liquor donuts, I guess. He opens and yeah, he shows up and the piggies are like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he's like, "The Fuzz," which is the iconic quote of the movie. Here comes the Fuzz, because he's fuzzy. He's fuzzy wuzzy. But I mean, we'll get back more to that. This isn't the part that really. This is just a fun little catchphrase. This isn't the part that really sells this to the furry community yet. And I don't know that the furry community's picked up on this yet, but the furry community should probably be picking up on Wolf Cop. I'd feel strange that it hasn't. If you're a furry, watch Wolf Cop. You'll like it.
Are you a furry that has watched Wolf Cop?
No, I'm saying it's. No, I'm saying like a furry would probably like Wolf Cop.
Oh, most definitely, but like.
No, Cody, I'm not a furry.
Just checking. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into.
Anyway, yeah, he kills the piggies and leaves. Willie's pointing out that they should really be keeping a low profile, which is a bit suspicious. There's no real reason for him to be saying that. I suppose you could say it's because they've just killed a bunch of people and they're going to get arrested. Probably.
Who's going to arrest him?
Yeah, he is the police. He's a police who's a cop. What? Yeah. I am the police. I am the law. Woo!
Cop? Sheriff?
Who's going to argue with a werewolf cop? I'm not going to argue with a werewolf cop. Werewolf cop pulls you over on the highway. He's going to be like, okay, you know how fast you're going? Yes. You know why you're going to pay the ticket on time? Yes. You show up on time for your court date? Yes. Yes, mister. Thank you. Yeah, we don't see him pull over people for speeding tickets, but I believe that's somehow how it would go. I mean, anyway, so he goes to a garage to go pimp out his police car, which he paints black and rips the doors off of and turns the light signal so it goes vertically along the thing. It's not a ton of additions, a little bit of extra armor on it, I guess, but it's actually not that big of a change. It's mostly just a paint job. He finds some kids doing graffiti, and he pees on them.
Sorry, I was about to make an R. Kelly joke, but that's probably not very appropriate.
You know, to be fair, yeah, he is actually kind of doing the same thing. I don't think the courts really care that you're not doing it for sexual purposes. It's like, no, mister, you don't understand. I wasn't doing it because it gets me off. I was doing it because they were spraying graffiti on something. The judge just like, yeah, that's not better, I don't think. I still think that gets, like, maybe that gets you off the sex offenders list, but maybe. You're still exposing yourself to a minor. That's probably...
I think regardless of the purposes or whatever justification you use here, you're pretty much still in the wrong.
Yeah, this is the thing about police brutality. It doesn't, you're not supposed to be doing it even to the bad guys. Hashtag defund the police. Anyway.
Unless you're talking about wolf cops. You should be investing more money into wolf cops.
I don't think he needs a lot of investment. I mean, he didn't go to get a bunch of money from his thing to pimp out his police car.
No. But with that being said, I mean...
If anything, like, at very least, he's more efficient. Like, you could just hand a police car to him and he'd get like a brand new one. Seems like you're saving money, really. Just by, like, you could pay him the same and he'd get more value. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking at it like that. But, like, this is, like, I was gonna say chaotic evil at the beginning, but at some point in time, it just kind of blurred the lines between the two.
Yeah, what is Wolf Cop's alignment? Is it lawful neutral? Is it because he's objectively
Well, I mean, he stopped a robbery and then proceeded to rob them.
true.
I mean, he took probably less than what they were gonna rob him for, but
Yeah, and he didn't try to arrest them either.
no, he just straight up murdered him.
Yeah.
But he does cop work.
Chaotic good? Yeah, I think he's chaotic good. Yeah, this fits under chaotic good. He's very destructive, and it's maybe not the best way to be doing it, but it is yeah, I think he's chaotic good. Lou Garou, chaotic good wolf cop. There's no D&D wolf race, so which is weird.
Isn't there lycanthropy in D&D though?
Oh, there is, but it's not a player race. It's a affliction. You can become a werewolf, but there's no like dog folk. Like not like the Tabaxi or the Leonin, which are cat people. There's no dog people. At least not in 5th edition. I think there are in earlier stuff like 3.5, but the chief shows up at the site of the robbery where Tina is, and Tina's taking statements. And they're asking where the hell Lou is. They don't know. He says, "Oh, well, did you get a statement from the witnesses?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, tell him what you told me." And he's like, "It was a big fucking wolf cop." So yeah, they're confused.
Yeah, but I mean, like, two of the other cops are currently there taking a statement.
Which really sells the fact that Wolf Cop isn't a lawful character. A lawful character probably would have taken the statement from these people.
That's fair.
Like, realistically, he should have done the paperwork too. What, he's able to stop robberies, but he's not a good enough. He's too good to do paperwork. This is the problem with all these tough guy cops. They're too good to do paperwork. It's an intrinsic part of the job, and we all need to respect that. That's something you got to know in order to be on the force.
From your multiple years of police work.
Yeah, my 30 years on the police force. We get a glimpse of the gang leader smoking his red candy sugar and listening to a police scanner. He hears about I think this takes place a little bit before, but he heard a little bit about the robbery. And meanwhile, Lou Garou is tracking something. And he finds his way out to a barn in the middle of the country, which he rams into, and he finds himself in the midst of a gang hideout, in which he beats up a bunch of gang members. He tanks a bunch of bullets, rips people's faces off. He actually rips one guy's face off, leaving just a skull, and that's a pretty decent effect, actually. He stands around for a little bit. While Willie, who is leaning underneath the dashboard of the car, is calling somebody, telling them they have a problem. Wolf Cop proceeds to blow up the meth lab and driving away from the explosion. They arrive back at the police station and find Jess there, who seduces Wolf Cop, and they have softcore porn sex in the police jail. And 1,000 furries just cheer because they feel
downloading the movie as we speak.
They were not as nearly valid. This is the most validated they've felt up until the release of season 5 of She-Ra, Princesses of Power.
I don't understand that reference, so
She-Ra ends up with a cat girl. That's the short version. So furry representation. Okay. Also lesbian representation. But you did both. And we all know you did.
Species representations? Yeah, that's a thing, right?
Love the show, by the way, not disparaging it at all. Yeah, they have sex to the song Moonlight Desires, which is another hit Canadian song that gets played on the radio all the time here. She's also wearing a red hood when she goes to seduce him, so that's a fun little reference.
Well, she also yeah, it's about to make a connotation to some of the wordplay she was using in this situation. So,
oh, Lou, what a big cock you have.
yeah, that it maybe wasn't as blunt as that, but yeah, essentially is what it boiled down to.
Willie has gone to go take a seat in a hearse, which is very confusing for a little while. I'm like, wait, why is he sitting in a hearse? He's not a coroner. Or is he? We'll get into this briefly. This is basically where everything's going on. It's basically revealed at this point that Lou is one of the cloaked figures, the changeling, or Willie. Willie, Jess, and the gang member are each changelings. Willie going into the purse reveals that he is also the coroner, which is very interesting. So they've been playing him like a fiddle, more or less.
Oh yeah.
Jess drops something into his drink and then leaves the cell and closes the door. Lou drinks his drink, and it's full of tranquilizer, so he passes out as Jess transforms into the mayor, who is an old lady, and it's revealed that she is the third changeling. Each of the changelings take up 2 forms throughout the movie. They can maybe do more, but yeah, no way to know.
It could just be the whole town.
Yeah, but we only see 3 of them in the beginning, so that's kind of where we're at. And we only see them take 2 forms each. Willie receives a call and goes back into the police station and talks to Jess a little bit. He points out that he's been trying to the reason he's been observing Lou so closely is he's trying to figure out why Lou's a more powerful werewolf than a lot of the other ones they've been making, and hasn't been able to fully figure it out. This was all caught on and this is revealed to be all caught on the station's security camera. So that's an easy fuck up. That's a bit of a plot hole. Weird they didn't figure that out. Although it's understandable why Lou wouldn't necessarily pull it out, because clearly he can't give if Willie had noticed it, he would have just been like, yeah, but I can't give you the police station tape. You'll just have to film it yourself anyway. They were also maybe hoping to get him out of there before anyone could see it. So Tina sees them haul Lou out of the building and then drive away with the hearse. And then she looks up at the security feed and finds that and gets the whole deal. So she knows everything. At this point, it's revealed we see the chief walk into a building and then transform behind a pillar into the gangster boss. So he's the third changeling. And he tells his gang members to circle the area where they're going to do a ritual so that no one can get in. And he walks over to the thing. We also get a face reveal from Willie showing that he's also the coroner. They've been doing this every 32 years for 200 years and using this in order to rule a town. It's not clear from this, but they are killing people who enter positions of power and then taking their place. They aren't just conjuring people from piecemeal. So at the point where say the mayor would have conceivably died of old age, they just wait for the next mayoral candidate to come along and then kill them after they had won the mayorship. This isn't revealed so much in the movie, but it's revealed to be the case in the sequel. It's actually very weird. Turns out in the sequel, in the first 20 minutes of that, turns out Willie is alive, like the real Willie, because he was just in a tank. Yeah, he's just in a tank somewhere apparently. This is a little weird also. They're shapeshifters, but they're using all their vast powers in order to run a tiny town. But I actually think this is fairly plausible, because you can, if you take over a country, that's a big deal. If you take over a small town, no one gives a shit.
Especially a small town in Canada.
Exactly. You can probably run a little racket. Like they own the
Yeah,
gangs,
exactly.
they own the police. They could probably make some money. They conceivably could own some other businesses, manufacture the laws so that their businesses are favored, use civic bylaws to break down competitors, all sorts of crony capitalistic shit that would be very easy for them. And
Or
with
murder.
yeah, oh yeah, also yes, and all with negligible oversight. Like they bring up, hey, maybe we should bring in the the big city police to deal with Terry Wallace's murder, and and the chief's just like, no, we'll keep this local, which is something that's within his prerogative, probably.
And I mean, I guess like the police chief has the ability just to pass things off on the fact that at least one of his cops, if not both of his cops, are actually completely incompetent. And then he's just like, well, look what I have to work with. I've got a drunk cop and a chick who plays with people's faces after they've been ripped off their head. Cop.
Yeah, I mean he's like it. I mean, not maybe not. Even if you ignore the thing with Tina, it explains why Lou never got fired
Mm-hmm.
because it just serves them to have like a semi-inept police force that only really gets in the way of things that bother them.
This is another scene that bugged me actually because Tina goes in and she's got like a sniper rifle that she shoots like once and like her handgun, and she starts packing it all up into bags and stuff like that and getting ready to go out and find Lou at this point. And she gets into the wolf cop car, and she's driving down the road, and in one shot you can clearly see she's wearing like black aviator glasses and they look really cool. And then like 10 seconds later it shows her in like yellow plexi safety glasses, and I'm like, continuity issues.
I think my impression is that they're eclipse glasses. Also, the Wolfmobile is what I'm calling it.
It has a name.
No, but I'm calling it the Wolfmobile.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want.
I will. So yeah, the eclipse starts, which, as explained earlier in the movie, as a way to weaken Lou or a werewolf, so that they can absorb his power to extend their lives. Meanwhile, so they stab him and begin the ritual to suck out his blood and use it to drink. Meanwhile, Tina has fought her way through the perimeter and snipes Willie, and then snipes some of Lou's restraints, allowing him to get freed. And then she goes up. The chief goes after Lou, and she goes into the goes forward, and we get our obligatory chick fight between her and Jessica.
Like they're a couple of these scenes they've resorted back to using old timey guns, as you said in the beginning. They got like a really old timey round blunderbuss, and they shoot this thing in the movie, and it looked cool. They've got swords, daggers. The sword fight was cool, if you can call it a sword fight.
Yeah. Short version, he kills the female. I think, does she kill the female changeling, or does he?
I'm actually drawing blanks on that.
The female changeling is killed. And after Wolf Cop kills a bunch of the goons, and then they get into a fight with the chief, who just stabs, but he tanks the stab wound and just like walks into her with the open blade so that it's hurting Tina. He turns around, and then he turns around about to kill Wolf Cop, and Wolf Cop does a quick draw and kills the chief. Final fight. I didn't describe it very well, but whatever. At this point, the eclipse ends. It's actually a fairly tense scene because he loses his ability to totally tank bullets, so he's taking injuries in this. Yeah, it turns out pretty well. I didn't describe it very well, but it's very nicely done, actually. And they start to limp off to go to, and they start limping off. Lou says, I need a drink. We need a drink. Let's go get a drink. We need a drink. And she's like, and Jess and Tina's like, we need a hospital. Jesus. And so they go to the hospital to presumably get a drink. And that's the movie. It's very good. I'm giving it a solid 8. I liked it quite a bit.
I'm gonna give it probably I don't know, 6, maybe a 7.
It's maybe a bit out of time. Like, it seems like something that could have been released in the 80s, but it is actually pretty good for what it is. Yeah, we said a bunch of the. I thought it was fairly well together. You got like competent hints, which I don't know. How much of it did you figure out on the way? Did you watch? This is your first watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much were you able to predict where the plot was going when you were watching it?
Bits and pieces. Not a whole lot, actually, if you look at it.
Yeah, I don't recall picking up a whole lot of it. One interesting example. Yeah, no, it's all it all seems very obvious on the second watch because like you see all the signs. But like for example, with Jessica, she's doing all the sexy motions in the bar scene, but I mean, you can easily chop the in this sort of independent film. You can easily chop something like that up to sloppy filmmaking or exploitationing. But no, it's actually like a plot hint, which is very interesting. Yeah, this film does have a fair bit of exploitation elements, but it's actually fairly competently made, which is weird. Like there's a lot of foreshadowing and stuff's well thought out, which I think sets it above like other stuff like Velocipaster in that. Well, first of all, this thing has a very decent budget for what it is. They clearly got all the money they needed.
I was just gonna say the Velocipaster, in its defense, didn't quite have the budget.
Yeah, no, this has way better. Yeah, this is like way better budget than Velocipaster. Like this is closer to $1 million probably.
It had one explosion, and the Velocipaster had 0.
You know, lots of stuff. They did like several vehicles.
One of the points that you see a lot is you're not really invested in the characters.
But I mean, I'm not really invested in a lot of. Like, I'm viewing this kind of from the view of like, this is an 80s movie pushed out into modern day. It's a bit more refined. Like, you're not going. It lacks like the social commentary of something like Toxic Avenger, but I think this has comparable effects to that, and also maybe it takes itself a bit more seriously. But I think this is kind of it doesn't quite. It's not good enough to be like a legendary movie, like a big classical movie, but it is still good, at least within that context of like, okay, if you're talking about doing something like RoboCop or like I've compared it a lot to RoboCop because that's something violence where it's like a fancy cop with a gimmick. But yeah, I think that ends up working pretty good in this movie. So you get something very nice, and it's way better put together than a lot of things. It was a real shame when the second one didn't turn out as well.
As I said earlier, once that gimmick kind of runs its course, it doesn't have a lot of legs to stand on. But I mean, either does like Velocipaster, neither does the Toxic Avenger. I mean, the movies are gimmicky, and the gimmicky stuff only works for so long, right?
Yeah, and it's not like RoboCop got any good sequels as far as I know. Like no one really talks about them. You got to be able to draw from the but you got with this sort of thing you got to be able to draw from the premise, and they kind of just killed off the big bad guys in this. So the only thing was you just got after this you kind of just got to contrive a reason for another one of these big bads to come by Woodhaven, and that doesn't necessarily exist easily anyway, so you got to contrive something.
Or as we were talking about Goon earlier, Goon kind of had this premise because you haven't seen Goon. Sean Penn or
Yeah, no, I get where you're going with that because the sequel to that, if I'm recalling, if I'm getting my trivia about it right, is that they're going on the premise of like how the goon is kind of like something that a lot of sports people are trying to get away from in the modern day because it's very dangerous for the people. So they're able to draw that plot idea from the premise of the show, which I don't know how you do that with Wolf Cop.
You keep the werewolf. One of the biggest issues in whatchamacallit, in Goon is the Goon no longer has anybody to fight. He's kind of been at the pinnacle for as long as he could, and then he kind of set into a more mundane setting where instead of being out on the ice and fighting people, he's put onto like an office job that's more reliable because at that point in time, maybe shift the focus of the movie where mundane and kind of like mediocrity and never really living up to his full potential as a wolf cop becomes more focused on the film as he tries to maybe wolf cop other places or something along those lines. It's just a thought process is you can't kill off your main villains in the first movie and then just kind of exposition them back into the film for the purpose of lazy writing. It's rather create a new threat or
Maybe you do something with Lou's alcoholism.
yeah, that's also very possible.
Do like a demon in the bottle with him, and then have some sort of. You'd still have to come up with some sort of bad guy, but
Yeah. What I was gonna say is like blur the lines between like you could get really gritty with it and be like he doesn't even know what's right and wrong anymore. He's lost his touch on punishment or law and order type ordeal.
and to be fair, you could also go with the fact that he's kind of a shitty, like a both him and Wolf Cop are shitty cops in like slightly different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's very much a police brutality thing, and like we joked about it, but yeah, realistically,
Or maybe he was forcibly retired.
yeah, maybe you just put him up against a scary serial killer like they did in like Jessica Jones season 3, and that's what that'll be about. I don't know. I mean, they could still do this in Wolf Cop 3 if they ever get around to it, but
Yeah, I don't think I finished that.
it's
I
pretty
mean,
good.
they're based out of Regina. We can consult. Get a hold of us.
Yeah, yeah,
We're open.
yeah. No, we're big fans. We're big fans. Lowell, we'll get in. We'll help you out. We can be in the movie.
Those creative juices, don't always flow. Sometimes you need a second set of eyes.
We're creative.
You named the sequel Another Wolf Cop.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's genius or borderline idiotic.
Save your judgment until we watch the sequel. That's all I'll say about that.
Well, I mean, he's...
Yeah, no, what do you want to review next week, Cody? We got 2 movies left on the docket. I will flip a coin.
Sure.
I have in front of me a plastic Pokemon coin for the Pokemon trading card game. One is just a bunch of energy symbols, and one is a Pokeball. So the last 2 movies are Delta Force and Guns Akimbo.
Is Delta Force gonna lose 3 times in a row?
Yeah. What side should Delta Force be?
Heads. Or energy symbols?
Yep, sure. Yep, good. Okay.
And the other one was a Pokeball?
Yes. Okay, it landed on Pokeball. Oh,
Delta Force just did not get its fair shake.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't think. I think as I think I don't think we can ever have Chuck Norris on the show again after this. I think this is just how this has to end. We have to. I think this has to banish him from the show. Sadly,
I don't know what Chuck Norris has actually been in. Like, I know like Texas Ranger and like some of the other stuff, but like besides that, I don't
yeah, like Delta Force.
know why he's so
He fought
celebrated.
Bruce Lee once. He fought Bruce Lee.
Yes.
He was in Expendables 3, but that was recent,
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, what's the other one? There's one where he like stops a chainsaw with his bare hand. They're all right sometimes. But yeah, I guess we're doing Guns Akimbo next week. So that should be fun. That is a movie about Daniel Radcliffe getting guns surgically attached to his hands. I guess Harry Potter got jealous of Jerry Dresden having a gun, and then he decided to surgically implant guns onto his hands.
If you haven't checked this out, Tyler had actually showed me a video on YouTube the other day. It's Harry Potter, except for instead of wands, they have guns.
Man, they barely even have the wands out. It's just like, especially for the first 5 movies. Well, that's why I like
the first opening scene where Dumbledore's like sitting there clicking the lighter. I know that's not a wand, but he's sitting there clicking the lighter, and instead of sitting there clicking a lighter, he's just taking a gun and shooting out all the street lamps on the. It's got its comedic value just because, you know, guns.
Yeah, I suppose. But, so Guns Akimbo. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at Kyle and Cody's Called CinemaCast. Follow us on Twitter at KCCCC. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Circulate the links. Watch the YouTube channel, which is named after the podcast. See you next week. Goodbye.